Hello and welcome to the True North Show. I'm your host, Megan North, and I'd like to thank our sponsors of the show, Quantum Awakening, Beth Lewis, Anne C. Clark, and our lovely guest who paid to be featured on this episode. Today, I am joined by a woman who I absolutely loved meeting and I connected with her instantly. Kristine Genovese is a transformative force in holistic health, empowering healthcare professionals to reclaim their own well-being while revolutionizing the way they heal others. As the creator of the groundbreaking Soul Intelligence method, she facilitates energy-based trauma release and root cause healing without revisiting the pain. Through direct sessions and her innovative online courses, Kristine teaches healers and wellness professionals how to integrate this method into their practices, unlocking profound transformations for themselves and their clients. With a mission to make the world a healthier on every level, so physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, Kristine is launching a soul intelligence movement. She envisages a ripple effect that changes lives, transforms healthcare, and establishes soul intelligence as a leading modality in wellness centres nationwide. Welcome to the show, Kristine. I'm thrilled that you're joining us today.
Oh, Megan, I am delighted to be here. And as you said, we had such a great conversation offline the first time we met. I was like, oh, I can't wait to be on the show.
And you were very accommodating too, because I was very late to our call as well. So
it's okay. It's all good.
It was exactly meant to be. Absolutely.
Indeed.
And so you've been busy the last few weeks. I've seen that you've been in New York and you've been touring a lot of different places with your new book that you've released. So what's been happening with you recently?
Well, I did something I called the Soul in the City tour, and I went to New York City. As you could probably tell from my last name, I actually, I'm a little Italian,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up in New York City. So to be able to go home was pretty impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a book tour with different venues throughout the city, this really cool place called Bibliothèque that's a wine bar with books. That's like two of my favorite things in the whole wide world. And then we were at the famous Strand for a book signing, which is a huge bookstore down in the Village. And I also did a couple of book signings with two different shops. They were both metaphysical shops, which was so much fun.
Wow.
So I got my spiritual side out. But the biggest thing was having a billboard in Times Square. Can you imagine? I had done, my journaling and what I call my sacred soul script, where you write as if something's already happened with lots of energy, emotion, feeling, and, you're bringing it forth. I had done that a number of years ago, and then magically, here it was, a billboard in Times Square. So,
Wow.
they say if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right?
Congratulations. That is just such a significant event.
Oh, it was wild. It was so wild to see your face on a Times Square billboard. And then it's kind of a panic because the kids were around, it's just a massively busy place. Right. And there was this one kid and he goes, Mom, look, she's famous,
And also on the billboard for the good reason, not the look out for this
yes.
woman, we're trying to find her in the city.
Exactly. I did have an interesting experience. I go sometimes by the name Spiritual Gangster because my last name is Genovese.
Yeah.
There was a guy, one of the head of the 5 crime families in New York City, Vito Genovese, once upon a time. He was actually my great uncle. So I know, right? So I'm definitely bringing a lot of light to the name. And after my Times Square billboard, it ran, twice an hour, like for the whole day. I went to an Italian restaurant nearby, and I was a little early for the reservation. And when I shared that with the maitre d', he said, "Oh, okay. Well, what's your name?" And I told him, Kristine Genovese. He goes, "Genovese?" I said, "Yeah." He was an older Italian gentleman. He goes, "Like the Genovese?" I said, "Uh-huh." He's like, no problem. We'll seat you right now. I went, wow, now there's some star power.
Absolutely, yes. Talk about throwing the name around for
Oh,
sure.
it was amazing. So my book is called Healing Through Soul Intelligence.
Mm.
And it describes my method. It's a compilation of stories. And as you mentioned in my introduction, I work with a lot of functional medicine and integrated medicine providers.
Hmm.
Even the woman who wrote the book forward for me is a triple board certified MD. She also actually is on Tony Robbins' medical team, which is really super cool.
Wow.
And she's recently started to partner, I believe, with the research arm of Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is one of my mentors as well. So pretty cool. I've done work with both
Fantastic.
Tony and Dr. Joe. So thrilled, that
Yeah.
there's lots of goodness packed in this book.
And is this your first book?
It is my first book.
Okay.
Yeah, my second book I'm actually in the process of working on. As we all are, right? But I'm actually turning the Healing Through Soul Intelligence into a daily reader, so that there'll be, a reading for every day, a journal prompt, an inspired action, and a quote, so that you'll have a little soul intelligence to take you through every single day.
I love that. That's fantastic. I really do love books that have got prompts and things that you can actually action as well.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I'm not a very good book reader in the sense of I read a couple of pages and then I'm like, often I'll go to the last chapter and read the last chapter and decide whether I want to read the rest of it. That's usually like
Spoiler alert.
yeah, exactly. That's usually a romance novel. But I do love books when I'm going through and there's actually action to take and there's prompts because I feel like I'm just more engaged and I feel like I just take it on more. Like I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, if I'm actioning this and then somehow something clicks in my mind and I get a better understanding of what it's about. I don't know. I don't know whether I don't know.
So
It's just the way that I take information in.
But that's great, right? I still, when I journal, I write it by hand, right? Because there's something, and when I take notes, I use a physical notebook, not
Same.
typing notes into the computer, because there's something about transferring it from the brain out,
Into
yeah, the
mm,
kinesthetic learner in us, I think,
yeah,
movement piece. But I do have journal prompts in Healing Through Soul Intelligence at the end of every chapter. I only keep
yeah,
two because I
yeah,
don't want to overwhelm people, but it does give you something to reflect on, and how
mm,
are you implementing, what I was speaking about in each of the chapters.
yeah, great, fantastic. Well, it's so funny when I said, "Is this your first book?" Yes, but I'm already halfway through my second book. I think it's a little bit like when you get a tattoo. It's like, oh, when am I going to get my next one? It's like, I've written a book, so when am I writing my next one?
Well, I think everybody, when it's a big hit, right? I'm very fortunate that it's
Mm,
an LA Tribune bestseller. It was just recognized as 2025 Book of the Year by Best Holistic Life, which was an incredible honor. So, when people, they're like, when's the next one?
yeah.
So it's almost like, you do an event and they're like, when's the next one? You don't really get the break, but it's really nice, and I'm so glad that people are getting so much out of it.
Yeah, fantastic. It's wonderful. And I've got the QR code up there for people if they want to order it.
Well, we should
So
probably tell people what the heck soul intelligence is, right?
yeah, so that was my question. So soul intelligence and particularly the movement that you're wanting to create now, I'm obviously it's your passion and purpose. So what was the defining moment that led you to start pursuing this?
Oh goodness. It's a little bit of a longer story, but I'll do my best.
We've
Okay.
got time, we've
Um,
got time.
so rewind the clock, March 12th of 2020, when the whole world got the ultimate timeout. For
Mhm.
me, March 12th of 2020 was a Thursday, and I was in an oncologist's office with my now husband, who was getting a biopsy on his prostate. And I got a phone call from the head of HR. I was a corporate turnaround specialist, first of all, for most of my career. So figuring out people, process, technology, how that all flows together in order for the business to reach their objectives.
Okay.
So I was one of those crazy corporate, plane hopping, adrenal junkie people
Mhm.
that was out there trying to do the work in the world. And when I got the call from the head of HR letting me know that my services were no longer needed, I was in complete shock because I had never been fired in my entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm in, my early 50s then. And I was like, what do you mean my services are no longer needed? You just gave me a performance bonus. We're making the turn. Um, well, the CEO's decided he wants to go in a different direction. I'm like, what? Backwards? And so I'm going through all of the motions, with that whole event. And I texted my boss at the time and I said, I just got fired. He says, me too. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. So what happened was I had been asking to hire people in the fourth quarter of the year, the last quarter of the year,
Mhm.
in order to have enough people to work the marketing that was planned for the first quarter. But the CEO kept telling us, no, you need to hold the line on expenses. So what he did was fire the two of us, take our board deck in on Monday morning, say we didn't hire enough people. He had fired the two of us, and he went on a hiring spree. Now, karma always has a way of working things out. He was removed from office after a board investigation, but he put a crony in. So he and his cronies summarily ran the company into the ground, and it no longer exists today, which is
Oh,
really a shame.
really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just wait long enough.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
divine's always got us, right? So what happened to Kristine? Well, I really truly believe that was the divine's hand plucking me out of corporate America,
Mm,
right? And telling me, okay, you've spent lots of years in your zone of excellence, to quote Brandon Bouchard. It's time for you to step into your zone of genius. So I remember shortly thereafter, I had this incredibly powerful meditation where I had just tears streaming down my face. And I knew it just felt like it was soul crushing if I would go back into corporate America.
mhm,
And I got very clearly that was what I now call my soul intelligence was screaming at me
mm.
that it was time to do something different. And shortly thereafter, the method was really given to me by the divine.
Wow, that is
You know,
beautiful. Just
crazy, right? Talk
incredible.
about true north, Megan.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm an ex HR senior executive as well, and had a very long career in HR. And when I first stepped into my business, which was 4.5 years ago, it didn't take off as straight away. So what I did was I did some consulting back into HR, and after a
Hmm.
couple of years of sort of doing a few short stints, that that I had never really had an issue with my HR career. I had a beautiful career, but I just wanted to work for myself. Like I just wanted to be able to manage my own diary and do my own thing. But when I found that I was stepping back in, and I'm saying back because stepping back in, that
Hmm.
I can completely relate to that soul crushing feeling of, oh my gosh, this is not what I
Yeah.
want to be doing anymore. And I
Hmm.
and I don't think it was actually the work. I think it was just more in the system of being in a big corporate and having to abide by their rules and having to do what they wanted me to do. Do you know that sort of thing? I feel like I loved working with people, and I could imagine you too.
Hmm.
That beautiful. No wonder we connected immediately because we're both that type of person, and particularly HR background. But I
Mm.
loved that part of it. But I think it's the corporate, that feeling
Yeah.
that when you step into an organization, that's where for me it was that soul destroying, soul crushing feeling.
Yeah. And
Mm,
so I knew it was time for me to, tap into that greater purpose, right?
yeah,
So how did I do? How did I bridge the
yeah,
work world and the spiritual world, right? Well, I
yeah,
had to straddle the two for a little while, just as
yep.
you've said.
I hear
And
that.
and so I had a corporate, I had a coaching credential in addition to my master's degree. So I had plenty of education underneath
Mhm.
me to be able to do what I was about to do.
Yeah.
So I developed a leadership program,
Hmm.
what I was calling a conscious leadership program, which
Hmm.
was a little new around 2020. People weren't really sure what that meant. And I talked to the CEOs I used to work with. I went through my LinkedIn contacts, right? And I said, hey, I've developed this program. You give me a quarter, you give me 12 weeks, and I'm going to take your middle managers and help them become senior leaders. Your senior leaders, I'm going to help them become ready for, executive leadership. And I'm going to work with your executive team and help them refine their skills so that your C-suite is totally in line with your mission, your vision, your values, and your purpose, and they're going to feel like they're lit up from the inside out. How does that sound? Everybody's like, yes, I want that.
Yeah.
So how did I do it? Right. So I put together, a leadership program that using all my knowledge, right? The first thing I did was an assessment, which is actually something really cool. It's a tool I still use today for hiring called the Game Changing Index. It was developed by a research firm in the UK. And it actually tells you what intrinsically motivates you. Where does your energy naturally want to go? So it's not personality based. It's not skills based. And it's super cool. So we do that as your first one-on-one in the program. This is a group program. I do a traditional coaching session in the middle, kind of checking in on what they've done, what's working, where we want to go. And then they've gotten to know me. So towards the end of the program, I said, all right, so we can do one of two things. We can either do this as a traditional coaching session where we talk about where you really want to take your personal career and your team's goals forward, or you could take a risk walk with me and we can talk about why your team actually wound up in this spot in the first place, why you're not thriving in the environment that you're in at work, and why it's really showing up at home in your personal life as well. So if you want to get to the root cause, you have to take a risk walk with me and do what I call a soul intelligence session. Every single one of them picked the soul intelligence session. And I went, okay, there's my confirmation, game on. Yeah. And that's how I started to introduce it in the business world, in the work world.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that one of the executive CEOs that I was coaching owned a nutraceutical company, a company that produces healthy, products.
Yes.
To include like nutraceuticals or like nutritional supplements, vitamins, and healthy products to help people heal. And he was so impressed with my coaching, my executive coaching, he brought me into his leadership team. And then he brought me in to work with his entire company. And then he said to me, he flipped my methods on me and said, you're going to work for me full time someday. I said, no, I'm not. And here I am 3 years later, but he's not corporate America. He's a single owner. So it's a little bit different, right?
Different, yeah.
And I said, but if I come, I got to be all of me. I have to be able to use soul intelligence with our employees, with our clients, and introduce them to the mental and emotional healing that's the underlying root cause of everything that goes wrong in the physical body, dis-ease, dysfunction, or the dissonance in your frequency.
Wow. And so through this journey of you creating the soul intelligence method, have you been on your own journey of healing and processing things for yourself as you've been going through this?
Oh my goodness, yes. Right? Healer, heal thyself. We got to start with us, right? We have to go through it. So I know that was a loaded question, my friend. I'll start with something simple. Okay. Just so you have an understanding of the soul intelligence method, I have a book of charts and a pendulum that I use. And there's various charts. There's physical charts about the physical body. There is mental and emotional wellness charts. There's like negative, toxic masculine and feminine qualities. There's about 100 different archetypes or patterns that people experience. It brings up this old trauma, unhealed, unresolved trauma from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind to be released. Okay. So in terms of my own healing, we'll just pick a self-limiting belief. I grew up with an alcoholic father. And so I grew up with the self-limiting belief, I'm not good enough. In order to gain favor or attention or positive feedback, I couldn't just meet the expectation. I had to exceed it, right? I always had to overachieve. So that served me extremely well in business. It really was a disservice to me in my personal life because I kept choosing partners where I would overdo, they would underdo, and then I'm angry that I'm invisible and not supported and not even on the to-do list, let alone a thought. Imagine that. I did it to myself. Okay, so that's a very simple, quick example. But we talk about the years of corporate America. I literally grew up at a time where hitting your head on the glass ceiling is a very real thing. To where I had to work twice as hard as a man in order to earn the same income. And that was the environment I grew up in, and that's what I knew to be true. I remember going to college and, carrying 2 cases of beer up 3 flights of stairs just to prove to the guys I could do it,
Mm.
And I, growing up that way, not just at home, but in the corporate world, women were seen as weak. You couldn't cry, you couldn't show emotion. I would speak very crass language and, know the sports statistics and make fun of people that were emotional, like everything, like
Yeah.
suppressing everything, right?
Yeah.
Well, that resulted in a cervical cancer scare. Um,
Right.
yes, because when you push all of that down, your
Mm.
energy, once energy is created, it can't be destroyed, right? It's a scientific fact. So it's got to go somewhere.
Well,
So
yeah.
for me, it went to my cervix, which is the seat of our womanhood,
Yes,
right? And that is
divine feminine.
right? Where we birth businesses and babies and all the things. By the way, it is also where men's prostate is located. And it is one of the reasons why so many retired men get prostate cancer, because they've lost their sense of purpose.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, that's
Because the
really,
energy's got to go somewhere, right?
yes.
So I did all the things. I got the abnormal pap smear. I had to do an in-office procedure, and they said, look, there's too many cells that are affected. We need to bring you into the hospital and do a conical biopsy. And I was like, what? And then I was so disconnected from me at the time. I was like, oh, well, I'm done having kids. They can just take all my parts out. Who cares? Like, I remember saying that.
Right.
So anyway, when it really hit me, like, okay, I've got something I have to deal with here.
Yeah.
I called every healer I knew, right? Like from
Yeah.
traditional to psychic and everything in between. And I remember the first person I spoke to said to me, well, Kristine, you really need to get in touch with your divine feminine. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, do I have to like dance or wear flowy dresses or grow my hair out? What does that
Throw my
mean?
bra away.
Exactly, right? So what I did is I started to read up on strong female leaders like
Mhm.
Sekhmet from Egypt, or Isis, who was another incredible strong leader, and like how many women actually were powerful and led, right? And started to recognize, oh my gosh, women are incredibly strong. They are not weak. And realizing that emotion is energy in motion.
Yeah.
And when energy is no longer in motion, that's when it pools in the body and it causes dis-ease or dysfunction or the dissonance in the frequency.
Mm.
So I had been suppressing my femininity so long, it had to go somewhere. So that's where it went.
Wow.
So I started doing the work. I did like energetic acupuncture. I started meditating. I started seeing my cells vibrating healthy, and just said, okay, you know what? I had a girlfriend tell me, you know what, just it's going to be gone by the time you go and get it, go into the hospital. And I went, you're right, it is going to be gone.
Mm.
And I made that decision and I did all the things. So I went into the hospital, and I'll never forget the OBGYN's face. She was like, we must have cut it all out because it's gone. I'm like, yeah, we must have.
Yeah.
Now, did we? Possibly, right? Did I do all the other things, the mental things, the emotional things, the physical things, the spiritual things? Yes.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's how this works.
Yeah.
It's not one thing, it's all the things.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that innate deep trust and belief that
Mm-hmm.
when you say I'm going to heal it, that it's healed, and then it's
Yeah,
not there anymore.
it's
And
already
that's
healed.
it.
It's already
It's the
gone.
final. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And that's the biggest point, right? It's the belief.
Yeah.
Because, there was an incredible book that came out years ago called The Secret. It was also a
Mhm.
movie.
Mm.
And it really talked about the power of positive affirmations. But what The Secret was missing is really what Neville Goddard said. Feeling
Yes.
is truly, right?
Yeah.
Is truly the secret,
Yeah.
because emotion is the magnetic part of the electromagnetic field that brings things into you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure that we don't suppress those emotions. It's literally what runs this human body we're in.
Yeah, yeah. And that feeling, like when you're manifesting it and feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing or wonderful, the universe goes, oh, that's a shift in that energy. What's that? I know my guides and my ancestors, my mum and dad always step in when I'm like that, because I know that they're celebrating, going, oh, something is shifted in her. because I'm not just for me, visualizing, it's more the feeling for me. I feel that really change and shift in my body. And so I know that then energetically it just vibrates out.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. If when you the Heart Math Institute measured, the electromagnetic field around our brain, right? And
Mm,
so our brain has a 2 foot wide electromagnetic field. Our hearts have a 6 foot wide electromagnetic field. It is infinitely more powerful.
yeah.
Yet think about how much time we spend strategizing, calculating, thinking. We're all in our head instead of in our heart and our
Right.
body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really feel our physical body is the barometer to our subconscious mind. That's where
Mm,
all that stuff gets stored, that old trauma, those patterns, the self-limiting
mm,
beliefs, all of that is below the surface. So not everybody knows what it is, right? They
yeah.
know they don't feel well. But
Yeah.
my method is founded in the science called bioenergetics, which
Mm-hmm.
was documented in the 1950s by Dr. Alexander Lowen.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what it says is if physically you're not feeling really well, mentally and emotionally, you're probably not doing so hot either. And that's really, common sense to me.
Yeah.
But it is what, really keeps things locked in. And about 95% of doctor visits today are for chronic conditions, things that just won't heal.
Mm,
And that's because we haven't gotten to the underlying emotional root cause. So you fix one thing, something else happens, or it keeps coming back.
yeah. 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 Okay. So I think we'll hear from our sponsors.
I know, we're like so deep.
I know. I've got so many things in my head. I've got so many things in my head. So we'll take a short break. We'll hear from the sponsors. And then when I come back, I'd love to talk and dive more into that mental health and well-being piece, but particularly around you and what you do and how you look after your mental health and well-being. So I'd love to explore that when we come back.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Kristine. Welcome back. I had a bit of a stretch and a move around, so
Had a little bit of water. I'm good to go.
good. Excellent, excellent. So you mentioned before about journaling and how important that is for you, but what other things do you do for your mental health and well-being?
Well, I like to do what I call easing into the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Tell us
that's good.
more.
Yeah. So basically what I love to do is I love to do a meditation first thing in the morning, at
Mhm.
least a 30-minute or so, just to make sure that I am totally, in the right space. And, any insights that come from that, I might journal, right? I tend to also do what I call my sacred soul script. And I mentioned that earlier. And it's kind of brainwashing for good. If we, think about brainwashing in general, let me tell you how it works. Okay. You isolate the person. You so you isolate the person, you control the messaging, you repeat the messaging, and you reward them with love or fear.
Okay.
So brainwashing for good, you want to be by yourself. Okay. You want to control the messaging that you're going to do, and you want to repeat it and reward yourself with love as if it's already happened. So I use my sacred soul script every morning and every evening on what I want to bring into the world, what I want to manifest, as if I already had it. And so I spend some time in gratitude, bringing that into me with all of those feelings and who is with me and where are we? What are we traveling? Where are we celebrating? Which is probably, as I mentioned to you, one of the reasons why my Times Square billboard actually happened. That was part of a sacred soul script that um, it was pretty surreal. Like when you're standing in your higher self and right, that you did it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And then I go, now what? I did it all, right? So now it's the next chapter, the next version, seeing the book and what happens to the book and how many people are positively affected and all of those things. But that's really part of it. And then I love spending time in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best times to get, vitamin D from the sun is in the morning. If you can spend like 15 minutes outside, if we'd follow the animals, I think we would really, the dogs just love to lay in the sun for 15 minutes and get their vitamin D. So whenever possible, I do that. And I'm very fortunate. I live in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
And so it's really warm and tropical most of the year. I'm an avid tennis player. But I do live on a golf course, which is very peaceful.
Beautiful.
So I get to see a lot of nature and a couple miles from the beach. So, enjoying kind of bookending my day in nature is something I make a concerted effort to do every single day.
And
Yeah.
when you're talking about your soul script, so when you're manifesting something specific, or when you're just generally manifesting and writing this down, is it like a lot of things, or do you spend a week particularly on one thing in particular, or how does that work? Because I think sometimes people get a bit overwhelmed when they're manifesting because they think, well, I've got this list of 100,000 things. How am I going to do this every day? So how do you manage that?
Well, I think it depends, right? Before I do any big event, I will create a sacred soul script as the outcome, as if what happened and how did it go and what did I learn and who did I see and all that stuff. And then sometimes it's more about a longer term goal. So I'll tell people to imagine that it's New Year's Eve, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this coming New Year's Eve. What are all the things you're celebrating that you achieved personally, professionally? Who were you with? The trips you took? Pick a time period that resonates with you. And sometimes when we're setting, sort of our manifestation versus a goal, right? The goal, you want to write it as if you've already achieved it. What feels tangible and what is the feeling you get when you achieve it? Is it freedom? Is it, divine love? Is it gratitude? The emotion is infinitely more important than the intention. And the reason why I say that is, right, the electric part of the electromagnetic field is the IQ, the idea, the intention, the masculine spark, okay? And that typically comes from the pineal gland, okay, inside. And it sends the signal out into the electromagnetic field of all that is. And then what magnetizes things to you, what collapses the wave and brings it into that particle form is emotion. And so the reason why The Secret didn't work for everyone is because they didn't have that emotional component with it. They didn't believe it. And our subconscious only responds to emotion, feeling, belief. It does not respond to anything else. And so that's why it's so important for us to be focused on emotion and belief, because that's what will bring something into physical form.
Yeah. Okay. There is, I believe also, and I'm curious to see if you resonate with this, but I also feel like that there is, when we're manifesting things, we also need to take action as well. So So I think action is really important. The example that I would use is someone saying, I'm manifesting winning the lotto. And I'm like, okay, but do you buy lotto tickets? No. I'm like, well, how is that going to happen? How are you going to win the lotto if you're actually not buying lotto tickets? So I feel
Yeah.
like that they're manifesting, feeling it, all the emotion, but there also is, we do also need to put something in action for it to happen.
So I call that, inspired action. So,
Okay. Yeah.
right, when you're connected with the divine of all that is, and whatever power source greater than you. Okay,
Yeah.
I refer to that as the
Yeah.
divine because it's more inclusive. But
Yes. Yes.
um, when you're tapped in, what asking, what do I need to do today,
Yeah.
right? So that I can feel that
Mm,
sense of freedom in my business. Or
mm,
what is it that I need to do today so I can feel that divine love in all that I do,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so it's asking specifically, how do I feel that feeling in the work that I'm led to do in this world, or in the way I'm being in this
Yes.
world,
Yeah. Yeah. So
right?
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get. Yep. 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 It's yes. And as you said, it's inspired action. I love that. Like, I think that that really, because it takes it, it feels like then it's at that other level again, right? If you're just saying, I'm going to take action, that then feels head led, not
Yes,
heart led. Whereas if you're
exactly.
saying inspired action, it almost feels like it levels up again to that spiritual level and that beautiful divine emotion that is connected to it.
Yeah, and often when I'm sharing with people, the different levels of consciousness, right? You've got the first level, which is life is happening to me, right? Victim,
Mhm.
villain, hero, the story. Next is, life is happening for me, which is what I
Mhm.
call life university, where we see all the things. Oh, that's why that person's in my life, or
Oh, yeah.
that's why that happened, right?
Yeah.
This is what it's showing me. They left me so I can work on my own self-abandonment. Where am
Mm,
I not showing up for me? Because we learn from those rough edges, not the round corners,
mm,
right? So
mm,
when you get the next level is really recognizing that piece of it. Well, the next level after that is life is happening through me. And so that's the state that I'm in when I'm doing the soul intelligence work, when I'm connected to someone, their guides, what's coming through, and I'm using the book of charts and the pendulum to discern the information and get really specific for them
yeah.
about when something occurred and what needs to shift for them, and we shift it. Um, but that's when, life is happening through me. The divine is literally coming through me and
Mhm.
sharing that information with a person. And then, that's also the divine can be coming through you when you're writing, like it's divine flow, right?
Mhm.
You lose sense of time and you just feel, your way through it. The next level is what I call life is happening as me. And that's a little bit more of a fleeting moment when you are like, maybe you're out in the ocean and you just feel like the waves and you just kind of feel like a particle kind of floating with all that is. And you really feel connected to all that is.
Mm,
We're not meant to sit on the mountain like Buddha, like that.
yeah.
That's not part of the human experience. That's why it's fleeting moments.
Yes.
Some people can attain those moments through Kundalini release, through
Mhm.
alternative methods to kind of shoot out of their body where you feel one with all. Um, but we're not meant to stay there. The
Yeah.
second you pull back out into traffic, it's why did that guy cut me off, right? Maybe to save you from putting your brakes on so you didn't get caught up in an accident a few miles
Mm,
down the road. Life is happening for me again,
yeah.
right? But if you can stay where life is happening for me or life is happening through me more of the time,
Yeah.
you're going to experience more peace and ease in your life.
Mhm.
And that's where I try and stay. That's where I
Yeah.
try to live.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. I love also that you've just given an example of then when I often talk about when we go back into our 3D, like we're all of a sudden we're a 3D human again. Why did that
Mhm.
person cut me off? And then it's that brain. It's almost NLP that we have with ourselves, isn't it? A breaking
Mhm.
state and going, I'm
Right.
aware of just how I've responded to that. How can I change that? That's
Hmm.
self-awareness and being, I feel when I work with my clients, I always say to them, the fact that you've recognized that you need to work on something, you've booked in and you've paid for a session with me, you're already halfway there. I'm just going to help you and just do the last part of it. Well, it's not even me, it's creator. But, that's self-awareness of when you recognize it and you're doing something about it and you're actually taking that inspired action, half of the work is already done.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're consciously aware of it and you're consciously aware that something needs to change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Mm.
that's part of what my method does, right?
Yeah.
It brings whatever's going on from the subconscious to the conscious to be
Yes.
released. So I
Yes.
say pain-free, right? Counseling, it requires you to cry, carry on, beat something, like move the energy up and out by reliving the situation.
Mm.
So with my method, it brings it from the subconscious to the conscious to be released. Do people cry? Sometimes.
Yeah.
But to me, that's called holy water.
Yeah.
Right? That is your soul releasing.
Yeah.
Truly. That's
Yeah.
where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so that's also why it feels so good, I think, after you're done. And you're just like, you have this just wash of relief that
Yeah.
you finally let it out. You finally moved it.
Yeah.
But most of the time when I'm working with someone, they feel very relaxed, calm. And then
Mm.
I get these crazy texts the very next day, like, you won't believe what happened. And I'm like, yes, I will, but I'm so excited to hear, you know. I was just working with a woman recently, and she is a health coach, and she works with other health coaches, so training health coaches. And she said, I haven't gotten a period in 3 months. I don't want my husband to touch me. I'm just not feeling attractive. I don't feel good. And my business is slowing down tremendously. And I went, oh, I know what's going on. She goes, you do? I go, uh-huh. And I talked to her and I did a session for her. And I said, okay, let's look at your sacral chakra. She's like, what? And I know I'm talking about the sacral because apparently this is a theme for me. But it's where I told you we birth businesses as well as
Mm.
babies. And so I looked, that was the first place I looked, and she was 90% blocked, like almost closed off
Mm.
in that area. And so I worked and we got it cleared, everything else. I got the text the very next morning. Oh my God, girl, I don't know what you did or how you do this, but I got my period last night. I let my husband hold me, and I had 3 new client emails in my email when I got up this morning. You are amazing. And I'm like, we just fixed the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's those kinds of things, right? That people are like, wow. Because I think we forget that we're all, electrons, protons, neutrons vibrating in an electromagnetic field because we're physical, we're corporal.
Mm-hmm.
We forget we're energy, and everything is an energy transfer. Like
Mm.
the only way you and I are able to see each other right now is an energy transfer. The only way your audience is watching us is an energy transfer, and it comes through frequency,
Mm.
right? That's why we hear radio or we hear music. It's a frequency that our brain is able to hear and translate.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as a computer. We allow stuff to just come out of 5G in the air and show up in our phones.
Yeah.
How does that happen? It's frequency, it's energy. Everything is.
Mm.
And so when you finally start to look at it and go, oh, right, that means the person that you're making out with, you're not just swap and spit with either, right?
Mm.
You're exchanging energy,
Yeah.
and you could be opening yourself up to bring on their stuff as well. So oftentimes when I'm working with someone, it's not even their stuff that they're carrying or holding for somebody
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And so when we're like all this energy work that you're doing and being in that space, what sort of things do you do? I mean, you've spoken about being in nature,
Mm-hmm.
living near the beach and those sort of things. Do you have anything specific that you do to keep yourself grounded? If you feel like, oh, I'm really not here at the moment, I need to bring myself back down. What do you do to keep
Well,
yourself grounded?
to keep grounded, I definitely go out in nature. That's probably
Yeah.
my first move.
Yeah.
But I do my own work on myself. I use my
Yeah.
method on me.
Yeah.
I do that on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
I clear my own space, right? So I want to clear the space where I'm doing the energy work for anyone else and make sure that I'm clearing my physical space. I'm sure you do as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And just I check in with myself. I also make sure that I go see healers that I know will help me.
Yeah.
So because I travel an awful lot, I regularly get a massage or a chiropractic adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, look, you go to the chiropractor for a biomechanical adjustment, you come to me for bioenergetic adjustment,
Yeah.
right? They work hand in hand. You release the pressure on the spine to allow the blood flow and the nerves to be released. And then I can also pull energy. Sometimes I pull the energy out, and then sometimes you're able to get the spine to move,
Mm.
right? They go hand in hand, the same way massage works with chiropractic.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this whole journey that you've been on at the moment, particularly with the book, what was it like to be writing a book? Like if someone was thinking, oh, I've got these great idea of writing a book, how do you start? What advice would you give someone?
Well, the way I did it initially, and I actually have this, I'll be putting on my website shortly, is a downloadable ebook. And I worked with someone where they asked me questions and I responded. And so then I took that transcript as sort of a Q&A, and that was my ebook, which then became the foundation to put together the physical book and
Right.
to transform it into more of a chapter book where, I worked with an editor, and the publisher to make sure that it was more of a book format, and that we also made sure that we, you know, added things like journal prompts so that some people would have, an experience with it. And then I went out to California and I recorded in a studio in LA the Audible version. Yeah. And so people now have an experience where they're like, oh my gosh, I listened to your book and I feel like you were giving me a healing. I go, awesome,
Yeah.
because I'm actually reading it. Right. So it was really kind of a progression in
Mm.
terms of how it came to be. And a lot of people listen to books as
Yeah.
opposed to read books these days.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to invest in going out to a studio and recording it as well.
Mm, mm. Okay. And so do you think that we're talking about passion and purpose and the journey that you've been on? Is there
Mm.
have you had to have some type or some I don't know what the word is, but some form of flexibility in the way that you thought your journey would go and to how it has actually gone?
Oh, come on now. Does spirit ever give you a straight line? No, 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 no. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even, you know, just something as simple as the book tour itself, like the experience of that. You have an expectation or an idea of what you think it's going to be like
Yeah.
versus what it is. And
Mhm.
so when I'm doing the manifestation work, I'm always using the phrase this or something greater,
Yeah, great.
right?
Yeah.
So that I'm setting myself up to fall forward,
Yeah. Yeah.
not fall backward.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big mindset shift for people. A
Yeah.
lot of what Dr. Joe Dispenza works on is helping you stay in the present moment and then feeling how you would feel when the possibility of what it is you want to manifest comes into your life. And
Yeah.
so I very much subscribe to that philosophy, and it has really served me well.
Yes, good. And I'm glad I've been really specific about that with people that I've been talking to lately, because I think that sometimes when people are going to step into following their passion and purpose, they feel like that they're like, this is what I'm going to do and this is how it's going to work out. And actually, as you said, there's probably one in a million that it ever happens like that. And I think that feeling of just flowing and trusting and being a bit flexible, I think, with your journey, I think is really important.
Well, it's also about paying attention to the synchronicities, right? What are those little signs and messages? Look, people might think you're nuts, but it's way more fun, right?
Yeah,
To pay
yeah,
attention to a number that keeps showing up. Or why is this song on the radio every time I think
yeah,
about,
yeah,
or,
yeah,
our guides, our angels, like they can communicate with us in many different ways. And
yeah,
typically it's frequency, right?
yeah,
They're there.
yeah,
They're just vibrating at a higher level frequency that we don't see them in the physical form.
yeah.
So they're all around us. And it's just a matter of tapping in and paying attention. It
Mm,
could just be like even an animal. Like I was on the a call with someone today, and they were considering actually taking my course to learn how to be a neuroenergetic healthcare professional, which is also available on my website. If anybody's interested in learning how to do this or wants to experience a session, that's a great place to go. And as I was talking to her, and she's like, I'm really thinking that this might be really good for my coaching practice. I said, absolutely, because you can talk to them about where they are today and where they want to go. And then this can help clear what's really blocking them from actually achieving it, right? And a hawk, like an osprey, like a hawk family, right, flew right up then, which I was like, divine purpose, here you are. It couldn't have been any clearer of a sign.
Yeah.
But if you're not necessarily looking for it or in tune to it, you might be like, oh, that's a cool bird.
Yeah.
It's way more fun if you actually look it up, right? And like, what does this mean? And why does this keep happening? I went on a really fun trip for my birthday with a girlfriend. And we called it Thelma and Louise's Road Trip. I don't know if you remember the movie back in the day, Thelma and Louise. Okay. We did not drive off a cliff. We drove, we did jump in the ocean, but we did not drive off a cliff. But everywhere we went, it was magical. Like I was bringing flowers that someone had sent me on my journey to this hotel. We show up at the hotel and Sue, my girlfriend was like, that's going to make a mess in the car. And I'm like, no, I'll hold it between my legs. I'll make sure it doesn't fall over, because she has a very nice car.
Yeah.
And we got to the hotel, and she's like, you're going to have to get those flowers trimmed because, they're already starting to wilt. And I said, I think they'll be okay. We come in, and I put the bouquet on the front desk, and the woman goes, oh, would you like me to trim those for you? I'm also a florist. And I went, absolutely, I would. I mean, come on, right? Like, how does this happen?
Yeah.
I went, well, there you go, Suze. Just threw it right out. Here we are, But it's a lot more fun and magical when you allow the universe to throw those things into the mix, right?
The coincidences that people say, oh, isn't that a coincidence? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it so much more fun.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah, I love that. Now, we literally only have a couple of minutes left.
Okay, all right.
Like, oh my gosh. So, look, I could talk to you for hours. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests before we finish our conversation. So what is one lesson or truth that you've learned on your journey that you wish you had known earlier?
I wish I had kicked that self-limiting belief a lot sooner, before I had to go through 3 husbands and split my stuff 3 times.
Yeah.
That was a very expensive lesson on self-limiting beliefs, okay? So if I can save you the pain, we got to kick this I'm not good enough thing well ahead of time. Otherwise, it's very expensive. Yeah.
Love that. That's such a beautiful way for us to end our conversation.
Absolutely. That's actually what we're doing right now, is one of my favorite ways to raise vibration, right? Laughter. You go right up to joy really quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I didn't expect that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I've just loved our time together, and I'm so excited and just so happy for you with how everything is turning out for you with the book and being in Times Square and all of these amazing things. So thank you for sharing you today.
Oh my gosh, Megan, it was really a pleasure. I wish we lived closer. You're like, let's go hang out. Let's have coffee. I really want to hang, So hopefully we'll have the opportunity. We're going to throw that out into the universe.
Yes.
We will have the opportunity to get together. I have chills at some point. Guaranteed.
Absolutely. Yes. And we'll come back and let everybody know.
I love it. Well, thank you again. This was so much fun.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank all of our amazing and dedicated audience, our supporters and our sponsors. And I hope that you all have an amazing week, and I will see you all again next week. And thank you again, Kristine.